Hello, everybody. Thank you for showing up today. It is a beautiful day in the garden, as you can see, and we are very excited to have our plant lovers tour this morning with our lovely interns over here. They're going to be taking us around the garden and showing us some of their favorite plants, and I hope you've seen Tim's list of plants that they're going to talk over. Well, the list that you printed off.
I just photocopied it.
Wow, he just photocopied it. Well, so the list that Tim has photocopied, it's got 15 plants on it, which I think is way more than we did last year for the intern. So this is fantastic. We're going to see a lot more plants this year. Very exciting. I'm excited you're all here. Okay, and I am failing to feel like I'm forgetting something, so I must have remembered everything. So I think we can go ahead and get started. So interns, let's take this away.
All right, we'll be going just around the corner here to start. Blake talked us up. Hopefully we can follow through on that. So as we come around the corner here, you're gonna see a beautifully branched tree. This one caught my eye, right near the entrance. Right up ahead here is Acer Sisfolium. This was collected near Mount Ontake in Japan at around 6,000 feet elevation. It is a Japan native. We have very few here in cultivation in North America, which I think is a darn shame. And I will pass around what these early spring yellow flowers look like. And those pop in before the leaves, so they're in full show. This is what it looks like in the summer, a little bit plain, but it still has these super nice ivy-shaped leaves. And as it gets into fall, you're gonna get a nice golden red color on this tree. This was planted here 23 years ago and has done very well. Tim says it could be a little bit better branched, but I would disagree. I think this is a beautiful specimen, hardy zones 5 through 9. And that's Acer Sisfolium to kick us off on this tour. Any questions?
Where the leaves are different, they have multiple parts.
They're compound, trifoliate compound leaves. In fact, these might be very compound.
Maples don't have compound leaves, do they?
They do, this one does. Look at that. How surprising.
So Evan, this one's got a interesting form. All of the branches seem to be coming out at one place. What's the story with that?
I'm not sure on the story behind that, but it does seem to remind me of how many Japanese trees look. You can almost picture them right in the painting, right on the wall of just a gorgeous scene with some samurai fighting in the front. Very, very Japanese to me. I don't think I missed anything.
Okay.
I think we'll move on.
Great.
Okay, everyone settled? Okay, so this is Apunta Aria Eye Parker Walkin Beauty. It's one of Kelly Grumman's hybrids, and he's based in Denver, Colorado. The petals are a deep purple color, and they can also be black. And a lot of his hybrids virtually don't have any spines. However, this one does have a few. They have large double flowers, and they often rebloom from late May through June. The bloom color is pink, and they are very large, so they attract pollinators really well. It's a cold hardy cactus, and it can actually live up to zone 4, so it can get in really cold temperatures. And like most other cactuses, it likes well-drained soil, high light, and it is very drought resistant.
Why do you like that plant?
I just like cactuses in general. I feel like cactuses don't get a lot of attention, so I wanted to highlight some of them in the garden.
Does the purple color stay when you propagate it asexually?
Yes.
It may intensify in the winter. I don't know.
Yeah, the color can change depending on the temperature, but the color should stay through propagation. Yeah, it's another small cactus. If you guys can't see, it's this one right here. But this is Coryphantha sulcata, which is the pineapple cactus, and it is native to the US in Texas. But it is a clumping cactus that can grow up to 8 inches tall by 5 inches wide, and it is usually found in areas with rocky soil, sandy beaches, deserts, and it can also be found in grasslands. It's also another cold hardy cactus. This one can grow in zones 11 through 5, and the flowers are yellow on the outside, and then more towards the center they're pink. It often reblooms February through May, and like most other cactuses, it likes well-drained soil, high light. It's very drought resistant. And this one obviously has more spines than the other one, so it's also deer resistant. All right, so this is Cylindropuntia imbricata mosaic melody. It is known as the tree of Kala and is found in a wide range of environments. It is also native to the US, and it can be found in Arizona, Colorado, Kansas, New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Texas. And it is also another cold hardy cactus. It can live in zones 11 through 5. It can grow up to about 8 feet tall, but it can also get up to 15 feet tall in some conditions. It can bloom anywhere from March to August, and the bloom color can be red, pink, or purple. And the flowers on these actually can get up to 3 inches in diameter, so they get pretty big. And it is also recognized by pollination ecologists for attracting a large number of native bees. So that's really cool, I thought. But the growing conditions, well-drained soil, it's drought resistant, it likes full sun, but it will tolerate some shade. And then you can also propagate this one from woody stem cutting where it's taller, and also from seed.
So when you say you can propagate it from a woody stem cutting, you mean
Like-
not just the fresh new growth, but maybe growth that's like a couple years old?
I think so, yeah.
Wowie.
I know. I think it's really cool.
You said it tolerates some shade. How does it do as a houseplant?
I don't think it would be happy as a houseplant. It really prefers like hot weather and like dryness. So I feel like in shade and in like your cool house, it probably wouldn't be the happiest.
So how deep are roots of these kind of plants?
I mean,
Like super deep?
I would assume just a couple inches, because I mean, this bed probably isn't that deep and it's happy here. So I'm sure they can go deeper than that, but.
So did you like all these prickly plants before you started interning here?
Yeah, I have a lot of cactuses at home that I really like. And I'm actually getting ready to take another one home from work today, so.
Yeah. All right, now that we're all here, I'd like to highlight Amorephallus unanensis. As the name suggests, it's from the Yunnan province in China, which is southern China. It's also found northern Vietnam and Thailand, so that sort of region. It does pretty well for us here, as you can see. These might get a little bit taller, but I like to highlight this because it's a relative of Wolfgang that we just had, but this one will stick around a bit longer. Yeah, so it has the underground corm, just like the corpse flower, and then it has, this is all one leaf, and it also will flower occasionally depending on the conditions. I'm not sure if we've had one flower here, but yeah, so this was a few years back. To pass that around to show off the flower.
That was one of these 3.
And as you can see, there's 3 different plants, are all the same species, but you can see there's slightly different coloration on the petioles of all these, which I find interesting. I believe some people can eat the corm if it's boiled, and it'll make fruit if the flower is pollinated and start green and they turn red and almost purpley color when the fruit comes into fruit. Yeah, it's hardy in zone 7. I wouldn't go much more north than that because it likes the humid and hot conditions. But yeah, I just really think it's a pretty structure and kind of a unique plant that we have quite a few of throughout Asian Valley.
Does it stink?
It stinks, but not as bad as the other ones. It'd just be a milder stink.
So they can be okay in shade versus sun?
Yeah, this one is pretty shady. It'll take, I'd say at least part shade, not full sun, but yeah. And as we walk through Asian Valley, you might see some very similar plants with just different stems and things. I think the variation is really interesting. And if you've ever been to Juniper Level, they have whole bunch of hybrids and a collection of these. So
is the one with 2 different petioles there from 2 different forms? Because they look pretty different.
I would assume that's 2 separate plants because they are different, and as Amorephallus usually grow, it's only 1 leaf at a time. So okay. I think that those are 2 separate plants. Yes?
Can you tell me what plant
This is in the Araceae family, so it's like a voodoo lily or calicasia. So, I want to squeeze down there.
Just
I've
like
seen-
Emma, I've got a bit of a theme going on today. I'm going to be showing you guys mostly variegated plants of the white and green variety. The plant that I'm going to be talking about right now is this one, Polygona Macrontham tiger stripes. This plant is really cool because it was originally from Nurseries Caroliniana. We got it planted in 2014. And when we first got it, the plant's cultivar name was actually Uama Dokoro, which was Japanese for the species name. When this plant was first brought over to America, Nurseries Caroliniana actually found it in a specialized Polygonatum nursery. Apparently, the owner offered them an 8-inch pot with only 2 stems for $10,000. They later went on to find another 8-inch pot with only 1 stem that was offered for about $250. So way cheaper. But now we've been able to kind of get this plant growing. We've figured out that it grows really well here. So I'm pretty sure that a couple other nurseries in North Carolina offer it as well. This plant gets to about 40 to 60 inches tall. In May and June, you can actually see the fruits from the flowers here, but it produces white and green pendulous flared at the base flowers, which hang down and aren't very fragrant, but they're very pretty to look at. The type of variegation that this is actually called chimeric variegation, which basically means that this plant, you can only get this variegation through division, through cloning, and tissue culture. You cannot grow this plant from seed. It is a striated variegation, which is typically only found in 2 tones, white and green. But this one has a little bit of a yellow color to it as well. So it's got a little bit of a mid-tone. This one is hardy zones 6 to 9. And you can actually use the roots of Polygona Macrontham in tonics to treat age diseases, diabetes, lung diseases, fatigue, and indigestion. So I think this plant's pretty cool. And does anybody have any questions? Oh, also, here's one of the leaves. So you guys can see the variegation.
When you say age diseases, you mean like dementia or?
I'm not entirely sure. The paper that I read, which was scientific, has been cited before, just said like I think it is related to like mental. It might also be related to like tremors, things like that. I'm not quite sure, and I'm definitely not a doctor. So, anyone else?
Will the plant move out of this environment at some point in time, or will it stay in here?
It will probably stay in here. Polygonatums are typically shade plants. This one, as you can kind of see, is a little bit more prone to things like, I think this is a scorch. This one is definitely, like variegated Polygonatums are definitely really prone to scorch, just because there's not a whole lot of green in their leaves, and white's typically prone to sunburn, more UV light. So they're probably not going to spread out. If they do, it's going to be a bit further in along the wall where it gets shaded by these vines. So Tim was saying that this is very slow to grow and divide. I mean, we've had this plant planted since 2014, and I mean, we've only got like 7, 8 stalks here. So it's very slow growing due to the variegation, and it can only be divided. It cannot be tissue cultured.
All right. Next, we're looking at this fern. It's Acer Sisfolium. It's native to New Zealand, where it grows pretty much like a weed. It'll find it everywhere in sun, and it'll take over old pastures basically. But I really love the delicate shape and the really thin foliage. It's known as the lace fern, also as the scented fern, but I've never smelled anything from it, so I don't really understand that one. But it'll spread pretty quickly through everywhere, and I just really like the look of it. It's in the family of ferns Denstadiaceae, which refers to these cup-shaped spore-releasing structures when it forms the spores. You can try to, apparently if you crush it, it might release a scent, but I get not much. I just really love the look, and it'll take over some small spaces like this, and it can take some sun, but here it's growing pretty nicely in the shade at the lath house. It is deciduous, so it'll turn brown in the winter months, but I kind of like the way that it curls up and keeps its lacy structure. I can pass this photo around if you'd like to see. Yeah, I really love just the delicate little leaves, and I think it's kind of an overlooked plant. You might have just walked past it and never noticed it, but I happen to like fern, so I spotted this one and I wanted to show it off.
Would this one be suited to a situation like the Cascade Garden where there's an excess of water?
That might be a little too much water. I'd say it'd be better in just like moist soil, but not so wet as that. Yeah. All right. Next, we're looking at Agave aboutifolia, also known as frosty blue, is its cultivar name, or the whale's tongue. Agave for these very large leaves coming out. I really love the color of this. It looks a little bit more pale, but if you get it, sometimes it'll look very blue, almost like a light, I don't want to say Carolina blue, but almost. This is native to northeastern Mexico, but it's also doing well here. We've had 2 in the garden, this one and another one in the monocart garden that flowered. It's approaching its maximum size, so it can get pretty big, and this one will probably flower in the next 2 years, I'd say, if not sooner. I just really love the color of this one, a really unique agave. If you haven't seen that one before, maybe you'll come check on it while it flowers. The flower stalk can get up to 10 or more feet and has these yellow flowers, and that's how it propagates itself. It can't. Otherwise, it doesn't cluster like other agaves. It's just a solitary species, so it'll remain here. And it seems to be enjoying its spot in the sun. Like other agave succulents, it can be pretty drought tolerant. I'd say not much past zone 7 because that's native in Mexico, so you can kind of imagine that slightly hotter environment. But yeah, I really love the color and just a unique agave. All right. Here, I'm not sure, you might have never seen this one before. Following my theme of kind of overlooked plants, you might have literally looked over this one and not even noticed it. But right here is a Cryptomeria japonica, Biridosugi. It's been in the garden since 2008, and this is how tall it's going to be. It only gets this big. There's other species that similar height, but get a little more round. This one has just been upright, and for a cedar, I find that pretty incredible that it's been like that for the past 15 years. There's a cedar right over there you can see is pretty massive, and other cedar species can get like hundreds of feet, but this one keeps its size. It's native to Japan, and we have a couple different Japanese cedars in the garden, but I really like this one just because one day I was walking through the garden, I'd never seen this plant before, and I was amazed that a cedar kept this small, compact size. In the winter, it gets sort of a red purple color on the leaves, which I think is interesting. And yeah, I hadn't seen this plant before, and I just thought more people might want to know about some unique plants that we have. Are there any questions?
Area is usually okay with some shade, but this is a lot of shade.
Yeah, I'd say it's a little bit sparse on the bottom, but it could take a little more sun, but it's been here for 15 years, so it's lasted. Yeah.
Do you think if you took this plant and put it out in a well-drained berm somewhere in the sun, it would have a different size, or is it's genetic? It's
pretty much, it's a dwarf cedar, so that's pretty much how far it'll get. Even with different conditions, it's still just genetically going to be about this size.
So for my second plant, I have Cercis canadensis alicat, which is this lovely little tree right here. Unlike the Polygonatum that I just showed you guys, this one is not formed due to chimeric variegation. This is actually a genetic or pattern variegation. So I'm not too sure about this one. Judging by the fact that it has seed pods right now, I think that it can actually be reproduced by seed. But Tim has said that he hasn't actually seen any little seedlings underneath to judge whether or not it can be reproduced by seed. But as you can see, it's got this really nice, like, splashy mottled variegation. This is actually caused by something called transposons or jumping genes, where small segments of genes actually kind of insert themselves into different parts of the DNA. So it can actually be passed down through generations. I'm, again, not quite sure about this one, but that's really cool. So this Cercis canadensis we actually got in 2014 from Hidden Hollow Nursery in Tennessee. This is a deciduous tree, so it's going to drop all of its leaves in fall and spend the winter dormant. When it comes back in the spring, it's actually a precocious bloomer. So it's going to produce these little light pink buds, typical of eastern red buds. Not as blue as this photo, that was the printer, but it's a really nice lighter pink than most eastern red buds. When the leaves do come back during the year, it's going to emerge at first as kind of like a coppery pink or light green. And then as the leaves mature, they actually get the variegation in them, which you can kind of see on this branch where the smaller, older leaves have less variegation on them and the newer leaves have more. This plant gets to about 20 to 30 feet tall. Unlike the Polygonatum, this one actually does not scorch in sun, which is a little rare for variegated plants outside. This one can be grown in full sun to part shade like this one is. I'm not sure if it has a different habit in full sun, but it should do really good as either a specimen tree out in the middle of the landscape or as a typical flowering tree in like a little grove where it gets part shade. This tree can be planted in USDA zones 5 to 9 and is actually native to the entire eastern coast of the United States. I believe that Cercis can be grown all the way from northern Florida up to New York. This one in specifics was found in an alleyway in Kentucky by a man named Alan Bush, which is how it got its nickname, Alley Cat. And any questions?
So if that cryptomeria wasn't up there, it would probably get taller, you think? If it's 20 to...
It would probably get a little bit taller. It might be feeling some crown pressure from it. And again, I'm not entirely sure how differently they grow in full sun versus part shade. This one is also, it was planted in 2014, so I'm not entirely sure how fast they get to their mature size. So it could just be on its way up and eventually force that tree out of the way. Who knows?
What really caught my eye about this one is the spot that it was planted in. I think it's a really nice kind of curve along with the colors of this weeping tree here and then this blue spruce. And then you've got your purple red prunus here. This was planted by the border babes, as they call themselves. They've been volunteers who have been working around the border for 30 years now. They've done a lot of work here. But this was planted by Tim and Denny. And if any of you know Denny and Georgina Werner, they've been working with peaches for quite a while now. They've made a hot buck on peaches. And this one is the great offspring of the two I just showed you. When it was crossed, they had 14 seedlings, and they let those grow a year, flower, and self, and then as in self-pollinate, and then From those 140 seedlings, only 2 had the combination of purple leaves, red flowers, double flowers, and dwarf form. So that just goes to show you kind of the challenge of breeding. And fortunately, both of these individuals had good genetics from their parents and were hardy and had nice form. And so they were trialed, and between the 2 of this one beat out its brother and got to live. So that's the story behind him. He's got beautiful wavy leaves there, and then it's got this precocious, nice double red flower, and it just fills up the whole tree. And so when you'll see it in the like that early spring months, hello mockingbird, it's just pink. It's just pink red. You can't even really see the branches. It's lovely. I think this is a really good selection. And this one is 3 years old?
It's been in that spot for 3 years.
So probably more like 4 or 5, thank you. Oh. Yeah. It can only be propagated by grafting, and we have 20 sitting in the nursery, so be on the lookout if you like this one. Might come up in future events. Any questions before we move on?
This will be an afternoon sun, so it does okay.
Yeah, it can take the sun. It does.
Parents are in the sun, right?
Yeah. Yep.
You'll probably have better color actually in full sun.
In full sun.
Mm-hmm. All right, I think let's move along. Try to beat this heat. All right. Is that everyone?
Yep.
Okay. Now, this is a tree I love because I had not seen it before coming to NC State, and they're planted all over campus. They make archways with them. They're planted in lines or on the border. They're used very flexibly in the landscape, and they grow quickly. Would anyone like to guess how old this tree is?
4.
Oh, well, it is 6. You guys guessed a little low, so it's not that impressive anymore. But this was actually a cutting 6 years ago taken from this tree in the perennial border. That's where we found this. These here have finished flowering, unfortunately, but just imagine if every single one of these heavy flowering branches was this nice purple blue, a lilac blue. And look, the bee comes right to it. He doesn't even care. These are loved by bees and butterflies. This is Vitex Agnes Cactus, Shoal Creek. And it's not a new tree. This was selected in 1983 in Georgia. And it's still like the most popular Vitex. I love it. I think it has great leaves. You can see here like a nice, actually I'll just pass this around. This has leaves on it. In the colder months, a gray green, but right now just a pretty full deep green palmate leaf. It's very nice. It's got great form. It needs almost no pruning. And it even in the winter, it kind of has that nice branching. So it never looks ugly, and it grows quickly. It's a great tree. Any questions? Yes.
Is that from pruning?
No.
That's how it just grows.
Yes, we pruned this one a little bit, but I can guarantee you, if you come to state campus and see them, every tree looks like that. Okay. Just a nice, comes straight out from the base, out.
Great.
Yep.
What did you say is the max height?
Max height is around 15 feet. Let's see, let me grab you the hardiness real quick. It is hardy from zones 6 to 9 and is easily propagated by softwood cutting, as these were. Native to the Mediterranean. All right, let's carry on. Okay, so this very nice, soft textured, both physically and in the landscape tree is Taxodium distichum, Jim's little guy. This tree has a great story. It was found by Jim Barry at his nursery, who is also, like me, a sucker for bald cypress. And he saw a mutation up in one of his trees growing on the property. He went up, got some cuttings, and propagated it. And he thought it was cute, but didn't have much luck advertising it. So he sent it over to his friend David Creech, who also owns a nursery. And that's where we got this individual. And David Creech was able to make some progress advertising it as a small landscape plant. But as you can see, it got a little bigger than expected. It said the max height was 10 to 15 feet, but this one is still going strong, so shows no sign of slowing. So it's obviously very happy here. But it made some luck in the market as something for a smaller landscape, small garden, home garden. But it still deserves some more popularity. It's not really in cultivation. It's said that it's easily or relatively easily propagated by cutting, but we have had no luck here at the Arboretum. We must be doing something wrong. And I brought you guys out here not only to burn some calories, but also to highlight an area of the Arboretum I think is often overlooked. Like the conifer garden, the monocot garden, the xeric garden, all blazingly hot, unfortunately, but places that we do put a lot of effort into, and if we could get some more foot traffic through there, I think they would be really nice venues for other things. And yeah, any questions on Jim's little guy? You should feel him, he's pretty cute. He offers some nice shade and respite when we're working around here. And really nice branching habit. I don't know if you can see, but in the wintertime, just gorgeous, even with all the leaves gone. Yeah. And if that is all, we will go back the way we came.
Okay. So for my third plant, we have this ginkgo right behind me. You might be thinking to yourself, Sarah, this plant does not look very variegated. Where's your theme going? I just wanted to show you guys an example of a different type of variegation called unstable variegation. This one, just like the Polygonatum that we saw in the last house, is a chimeric variegation, which is typically, again, shown by this two-tone variegation, white and green. Unlike the Polygonatum, however, this one is going to be unstable, which means, as you can see, it only has a few different branches that has that variegation. Like this one up here is completely green. This plant is an example of one that can only be reproduced through grafting. You cannot grow this tree and get this variegation through seeds, which I believe this one's a male anyways, isn't it?
I don't know. I'm hoping it's a male.
Okay, well, we're hoping it's a male. We don't exactly know. Which, going off of that, one thing that you might know about ginkgos is that they are dioecious, which basically means that the sex organs are on different trees. So you can have either a male tree or a female tree. The female trees are the ones that produce the characteristic really stinky fruit. So we're hoping that this one's a male. This one was given to us and planted in 2013 by Valerie Tyson and Richard Erhardt in North Carolina. It originally came from Dancing Oaks Nursery in Oregon, but this type of Maidenhair Ginkgo is actually found in eastern China in the, forgive my pronunciation, Zhejiang province. This tree gets to about 12 to 15 feet tall, so as you can kind of see, it's about up there right now. It might get a little bit taller, and it really, really likes full sun. However, I have a bit of a theory that if you were to plant it in part shade, it might keep its variegation a little bit longer. All right, for the final plant of the tour, I have arguably, I think, one of the prettiest of the tour. This is a variegated rose of Sharon, specifically American Irene Scott, or sugar tip rose of Sharon. We got this bush in 2009, and it was planted in that same year from Spring Meadow Nurseries up in Michigan. This one is actually on the Proven Winners website, and as you can see, has beautiful, beautiful double bloom hibiscus flowers that grow a light pink from July to October. So it's actually a pretty decent bloom time for a hibiscus. This one, unlike a lot of other hibiscus that spread like crazy through seed, doesn't actually reproduce through seed. This one, even though it is a type of jumping gene variegation, is really only able to reproduce through grafting and rooting of cuttings. Let me see. This one gets to about 8 to 12 feet tall. and just about as wide. It loves full sun, but can do decently well in part shade and likes well-draining soil that stays moist, as most other Rose of Sharons do. It does attract a lot of ants and other pollinators too. I've seen a bunch of bees on it, but it seems to me that it's mostly pollinated by ants right now. If you come up, you can see up here there's a couple, down here, so you'll get a lot of good pollination on this plant. Tim was just talking about how he has never seen a seedling underneath of this tree, which is true to it being claimed as seedless. And he says that due to that, it could be a more stable variegation.
I think it might be sterile.
Or sterile, sorry.
Sterile.
A sterile variegation. Or a reversion, which basically means that, unlike the ginkgo, this one is most likely not going to turn back to its original green form.
Is there any fragrance to it?
Yeah, typically hibiscus don't have fragrance.
Not really. It's kind of like a slight little bit of a fresh floral, but it kind of smells like flower petals rather than flower.
Sarah, did you say when it was planted?
This one was planted in 2009. But yeah, overall, beautiful plant. I love the blooms. It looks really nice with the light pink and then the lighter foliage as well.
Let's give all our interns a hearty round of applause.